source he'd provided didn't say anything even vaguely like he claimed it did. And I really just have never liked Donald Duck.
Good evening everyone, welcome to ColdHardLogic and a happy new year. We are very happy to be back at long last. My esteemed panel for tonight, Marty, how's it going?
I'm doing fine.
And Ziller, what's up? Been a long time since we heard from you as well.
Yeah, all good.
Pumpkin, what do you have to say?
Oh, I'm absolutely splendid, dear chum.
Welcoming Dr. Kitch.
Cheers. Great. Fantastic.
Don't boost his ego, it's only biochemistry.
Here to introduce our very special guest that you're all here to see, Ziller.
Right, well, I think he first came onto the YouTube scene back in, I think it was 2012, started doing the series that he's probably best known for, calling out geocentrists and their ridiculous idea that the entire universe revolves around them, and has since gone on to do various other videos like Testing Geocentrism, World of Batshit, where he explores lots of different batshit ideas, and a mini-series on spirit science to rival Martimas. So, without nary ado, I'd like to welcome on board ColdHardLogic.
Greetings. Thank you very much.
And also, to point out, this is the very first live stream you've ever done, isn't it?
If I can, I'd like to ask a very quick question of my own. Testing geocentrism. Geocentrism is a bit of a weird and out there kind of belief that not many people, or you wouldn't think many people, still held to. It's got to be right on the fringe. So what kind of attracted you to geocentrism to debunk, and where did you hear about it?
I first encountered it from a YouTuber called FernieBoy100, who was the subject of the first couple of episodes. And I'd been watching stuff on his channel and trying to have a conversation with him in his comment sections. Quickly realised that you simply can't reason with people who are fundamentally unreasonable. It's just impossible. And I'd enjoyed kind of watching videos by Living Dinosaur and Potholer54 and others. And I just thought, I could do this, and I need some material, and this geocentrism lark seems as good as any, and it's kind of within an area that I enjoy because I love spacey stuff. So I just went with that. And it started off as a 10-minute script, and quickly became apparent when I was narrating it and writing it that it wasn't going to fit into a single 10-minute video. And it kind of ballooned from there and ended up as 2 parts, then 3 parts. And then just thought, well, I'm going to have to keep writing now. And so on it went.
Yeah, it does kind of go like that with these kinds of weird beliefs. Like I found that with the Flat Earth. Obviously, Marty's found it with spirit science. Once you start, you find there's so much that you have to pick apart that just doing one video doesn't really cut it.
That's it. The more you think about the subject and the more you think of what the implications are, then the more material you just naturally end up finding. And so you can just keep writing and writing and writing. And so that's kind of how it ballooned from a 10-minute script into a 10-part series with a supplement as well.
Yeah, it's not just that you find the implications. You also find that, at least for me, I found that when I talk about spirit science, when I talk about flat earthers, creationists, everything, it's not just the beliefs in question. It's also you have to think about the psychology involved.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, why do they believe these things? What are how do you have any kind of epistemology that allows you to believe things that are so completely out there?
That's the thing that is particularly, not sure puzzling is the right word, but just this certainty that people have in their beliefs when they haven't even apparently tried to check them. But they just feel that they're right and that's it, and there's no point listening to anybody else. And I find that incredibly strange and quite disturbing, depending on what the belief is.
Well, there was that classic Ferdy Boy video that was in response to yours, where all he could do was put up, "This is voodoo mathematics, this is voodoo mathematics, don't listen to him," and then couldn't produce any rebuttal whatsoever. So your answer is la 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 la.
Yeah, that was where the supplement came from, because he was basically, I think in that video, his first rebuttal, I think it was, he was basically saying, we can't know the distance to the sun. And that just pissed me off. So I thought, right, this is going to be too kind of mathematically weighty to put in the main series itself. So I'll just do a kind of episode on the side saying, right, this is how you can work out the distance to the sun and get a pretty damn accurate value out of it. And so I just thought, come on, Fernie, let's have some maths. And you never get any maths or anything out of these people. It's always just, you're a government shill, and you don't need maths because maths doesn't explain reality, or maths isn't reality. Well, it does explain reality. That's why it works, and that's why it's useful, and that's why people use it.
But maths is hard.
That's
I think it's hilarious when
logarithms are pretty hard, right, Cal?
Yeah. See, I admit I have a problem there. Ziller won't admit his problem, though.
What, the fact that he's a disgusting hipster?
Yeah, that's at the root of it.
Yeah.
But I do love when you see them try to do like science and maths. Like you see it with Robert's son Janis, he does it. There's a couple of flat earthers like Eric Dubé's tried his hand and failed. But you can easily, very quickly spot the problems they get themselves into. I think that's why a lot of them try not to do the maths and just say, "Oh, maths is nothing. It's all made up."
Or they do the Juranism method, which is say that science is a lie and NASA's fake, and all of those pictures and videos are done in a giant studio.
And have you heard his motivation for why they must be fake?
Because they don't match what he wants everybody to believe, which is he is God, basically.
Well, yeah, that too. But he looks at a picture and says, "This doesn't look real."
And that's his argument. That's it.
That's it. He can dismiss anything by saying that doesn't look real.
Yeah.
What I want to see are any of these people.
How can you tell? How do you identify it as fake?
You'll never get an answer on that.
No.
What I've also never seen is any of these people, because some of them seem to be quite good at digital art and 3D rendering and stuff like that. But what you'll never see from any of them is what they think the Earth should look like. If it was completely photorealistic and wasn't a fake picture, what should it look like? And they'll never produce that image.
No.
Well, they usually go to that, the bullshit, it looks like someone just stood on a globe, which I find hilarious.
The UN flag.
It's not a round Earth, even though it's a circle. But I think the root for a lot of flat earthers is they love the idea of everything spinning around them, when it just isn't the case, because, as we all know, Earth goes around the sun, which shines out of my arse. That's just the way it is.
And geocentrism is the same, and I think it's really just egocentrism. These people really want the universe to revolve around them, and apparently just don't like the idea that it doesn't.
Quite reluctant to watch your videos at first when they were recommended, because I heard there's this guy's doing awesome videos debunking geocentrism. Say, well, what's the point of that? How do you actually respond to that? Like when folks say, why go after geocentrists? That's just a tiny like fringe crackpot group.
Well, I think the thing with a lot of fringe ideas is that they start off as fringe and crackpot ideas, and if left unchecked, and if you take that attitude of, well, you don't need to address this because it's just so out there, you don't need to bother, then they just grow. And
that's what happened to creationism.
Yeah.
And it's what's happening with the Flat Earth movement. I remember saying this about 2-3 years ago. Guys, we need to start doing something about this. Everybody thought, no, it's a bit stupid even for conspiracy theorists, and then suddenly, boom.
Yeah, it's exploding, it wouldn't surprise me at all if in 5 years, it's pretty much mainstream.
Which
just like creationism.
I remember even when you'd be talking to like young Earth creationists, and you'd say, "Oh, I bet you're a flat earther as well," and they'd be stumbling over themselves to say no.
Yeah.
And now you have flat earthers saying, "Oh, well, clearly we're all right because there's so many of us," as opposed to everyone else who has a brain.
Yeah.
I particularly enjoy the occasional flat earther or person of that ilk who isn't also a religious fundamentalist. And they're sort of like, well, no, I don't believe in crazy shit. I'm sorry, but I beg to differ. I mean, you clearly do.
Did you feel, by the way, ColdHardLogic, when you got the rebuttal written up by Sun Genesis Goonies, did that make you feel like you'd finally made it?
Making it, as it were, wasn't really a target. So I was sort of kind of expecting him to do something at some point, but I really didn't bat an eyelid when he did. I just didn't care really. But I read through it, and I read through it with a bucket of popcorn and an oven glove, and it was great.
I particularly like the bit where he's talking his answer to the meteor problem that you brought up was that the meteors pass in front of the path of the Earth.
Yeah.
The Earth is stationary and has a path. I want to know how a stationary object can have a path.
Yeah, I made that point in the video. If the Earth is stationary, it doesn't have a path. Therefore, paths can't cross. And then in his rebuttal, it's like, well, Earth's got a path. It's like, are you even thinking about what you're writing? Come on, man.
I've just got to have, because I know Mortimer's answer to this, but what was your first reaction when you first saw a spirit science video?
Just regret that I didn't pack an oven glove before I started. Actually, my first exposure to spirit science was Mortimer's videos. Yeah, just watching, why do people laugh at spirit science? And as the episodes went on, it just got worse and worse until it got to the human history part. And
I was so afraid of tackling that one because I just saw it. It's over an hour long, and at the time it had a million views, which was at the time that was like his by far most popular video. Back then, I think part one of his series had 50,000 views or something. Yeah. Thinking how am I ever gonna tackle this 1 hour thing? And I started watching it. No, actually, I didn't even start watching it. I watched a reaction video to it, and it was just within 5 minutes, the guy had facepalm, paused to facepalm 100 times, and he had actually brought out booze.
That was funny.
Yeah,
I can't remember the guy's name, but it was
Firefly.
I was going to say, was that Firefly's one?
Yeah.
Yeah. What was the first spirit science video you actually watched, Marty? Because I know I linked you to it, but I didn't bother watching it.
That was part one.
That was part one.
No, it wasn't. No, it was one of the sacred geometry ones.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Because you knew that you were gonna piss me off by sending me something stupid that was math related.
Yeah.
Because so I started watching that, and I didn't get through it, but I just thought it was so absolutely ridiculous. So I started watching from the start of the series, and then we've told the story so many times, but I go quiet for half an hour.
Yeah.
And then I come back on and said, that was the funniest shit ever. I literally fell out of my chair laughing. And I did.
Yeah, because for anyone in the audience that doesn't know, the tradition on our back channel chat was every Friday Mortimer would come on and say, I want something stupid to watch, and I linked him to spirit science. And then there was this deathly silence.
I was working the night shift at the time, so I was sitting there home alone on a Friday night and drinking.
which was the best solution, really.
Yes.
Yeah, I love their sacred geometry ones because they bandy around the word dimension so much, and it just makes me think of the bit in ColdHardLogic's one of your videos, Spirit Science, where it's you love the word dimension, you don't even know why.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I've asked them, can you define what you mean by dimension? Not a single person can get anywhere close to the geometric meaning of it. They can't even get close to their own meaning of it, for God's sake.
It's a multi-syllabic word, so it must be special.
I think the one that I love is the fact that I have some friends, bless their cotton socks, that love spirit science, and the best way I've found to basically making them take a step back is showing them spirit science. Because the reaction is space Jews, Martians, chakras, yeah, fuck that shit. It just writes itself.
How can anyone, in all seriousness, say, the statues at Abu Simbel were probably life-size? I mean, how dumb do you have to be to come out with that? And then try and excuse it by saying the details are the details and they're not important. Well, details as to whether 60-foot humans actually existed is quite an important detail in the history of humanity.
Especially since the easiest...
And what about the one with when it comes to the whole details aren't important? The video he made about water, how science can't explain like anything about water, and he just lists so many things. And I don't know, I could explain most of them when I was 9.
Yeah, that's the one where he bollocks is on about Masamura Emoto as well, isn't it?
Yeah. And that was actually something I found very rewarding because I hadn't actually. I didn't know that much about Emoto.
No.
But for that video, I actually started looking him up. And I just found that, okay, he says he has a PhD in alternative medicine. Wait, what? Can you even have that? So I looked at where he claims he got it. Okay, I don't know, what was it? The Open University of Alternative Medicine in Calcutta or something. And I was, wait, what? Well, it's India. Maybe they do have maybe they're like really open to that sort of stuff. But I should look this up. So I go to the university's website, and it actually says there that it's accredited by some board of whatever. So I try to look that up. Oh, dead end. And I keep looking, and I find that apparently the board that accredited that university is one guy sitting behind a desk in Calcutta. And he also runs the university. And also, if you go to the Indian government, their website, they actually do have a list. You have to look for quite a while, but they did have a list of all accredited scientific institutions in India. And it's not on that list.
That's a remarkable coincidence.
Yeah.
It's incredibly surprising, isn't it?
So it's accredited by a board that isn't authorized to accredit. And incidentally, that's also the same guy who runs the university. All right. I smell a diploma
I
mill.
was looking at the Emerald tablets and just thought, this has to happen.
So this is from a guest, several numbers. Ever heard of Time Cube? Will you make a video on that?
I've heard of it because it was suggested by a viewer probably a couple of years ago now, and I did briefly investigate it to see if it was worth sticking on the topic list, but I haven't looked into it in any great depth, and it remains on the topic list, so I may do one at some point.
But actually is Time Cube, that sounds...
I can't even remember.
It's some schizophrenic, it literally is schizophrenic. The guy who made it up is schizophrenic and completely insane, and it's his idea of how time works, which literally you can't read it, you can't read through it. There's not a single sentence that scans coherently. So take the word salad of spirit science and multiply that by several billion.
It's well out there then.
Well, it's kind of pointless to multiply it by several billion because, infinity times a finite number is still,
Well, it's a different set of infinity.
Yeah,
Spirit science is Aleph 1 and this is like Omega. Oh, math sets jokes, they're the best.
Yeah. Let's see. Someone asked me a question in the chat room, actually. I figured...
No, you're not the
it
one on
was actually-
top. Sit down.
Some guest asked what's my favorite pseudoscience so far, and that's actually a good question, because what I think is that my least favorite is any type of pseudoscience that appeals to a conspiracy.
Yeah.
Because once someone says it's a conspiracy, it's not about the science, it's about the mistrust of the establishment, and that kind of takes the fun out of it. That's why I'm having such a hard time with flat earthers. I am working on the next Flat Out Wrong, but it's always the case, that you end up with this point where no matter what source you cite, no matter what you've been taught that you pass on, it's always, well, that's just part of the conspiracy. But on the other hand, if you look at creationism, I think that's more fun, because they don't really appeal to that type of conspiracy, at least. There is a hint of, evolutionists want to take over science. Well, scientists take over science. Yes, they're right about that. So
I think it is quite funny with these conspiracies as well, how many of them blame NASA. NASA is responsible for absolutely everything, including the centuries-long conspiracies that have allegedly been going on, even though the organization was only formed in 1958.
No, that's
Have they
all
got time machines or what? How does this work? And won't get a straight answer out of anyone about that either.
Yeah, ironic considering they say that NASA stands for never a straight answer, and actually it's no, the people who say that never give me a straight answer as to why.
Yeah.
But I loved, there's people like Rory Cooper who think that NASA and the Vatican are one and the same, so, NASA just goes back as long as the Vatican does, which goes back as long as any satanic conspiracy you want to shove into antiquity.
I think some of them will say that, well, NASA was founded in 1958. Yeah, that's what they say.
As soon as you hear that's what they say, or is that what the government's telling you? It's shortly followed up by, you're just a shill.
I don't want to steal the show here from ColdHardLogic, but people keep asking me
It's
questions.
a raping, pillaging Viking for you.
Yes, we do have private schools in Sweden. I have worked at one or two, I think. Didn't like it. Now I work in a public school. And yes, that does make me a shill.
I was wanting to ask ColdHardLogic, what do you think is the most harmful pseudoscience you've come across? As in that could really cause serious harm?
That's incredibly difficult to answer, because ultimately they're all rooted in the same thing, which is not actually thinking critically, not actually bothering with any objective assessment as to whether what you believe is true or not. And so I find that kind of underlying current behind all of them incredibly kind of pervasive.
Yeah.
And so picking out a particular pseudoscience thing and saying, well, this one is the most dangerous, I think is incredibly difficult, because they're all dangerous in their own way.
I agree, but I'm gonna have to say anti-vaxxers.
Yeah.
Because they're actually killing people more or less directly. I realize that they're not actually trying to, but that's the result of it.
And not only that, the people they're most likely to harm are their own children, which is just bizarre to me. I can't imagine how anyone would want to do that.
I think a general sort of category of people making false health claims would probably be sort of top of my list, because they are actually affecting people's health, like you say.
The one that kind of gets me is homeopathy, because it's still subsidized partially by the NHS, which is struggling to fucking keep ahead of anything. And yet they're still paying for people to walk out with a little bit of water and say, there's a teeny tiny bit of hemlock in this. It should cure your cancer. There you go, buddy.
But by the time they actually dilute it, there's none. It's just water. There's
That's
actually
what they
no.
want you to think.
But
Yeah,
I'd say the most.
Yeah, for the next,
you're just a
if
shill
you-
for
if you
Big
ever do
Pharma.
another testing homeopathy,
I was going to
here's
ask
a-
that because that's the
here's a
first series that
suggestion.
I saw of yours.
try
Yeah,
to dilute, like, I don't know, arsenic and pour it into a corpse.
Strychnine.
Yeah, and then try to just pour it down the throat of a dead body, and it should come back to life, right?
That's where the special pleading begins.
I definitely think the most annoying one, or the one that really gets me, is AIDS denialism, because even watching their documentaries is.
Yep.
There's not like in some every kind of shit science documentary, there's some little bit of fun that you can have a laugh at, but you just can't laugh at anti-vaxxers. It's just too irritating.
There was a wonderful meta study that I think you cited in one of your homeopathy videos, CHL, that was by a homeopath themselves, looking at 3 of their studies, I think it was, which to my mind kind of pushes the definition of a meta study as it is anyway. But
Yes.
the most beautiful thing was they even found that they were full of shit.
Yeah, that was great. That was I think that was one on childhood diarrhea, where
Yeah.
they'd done one study in Honduras, one in somewhere else, and then a third one, and did a meta study on them, and found that there wasn't sufficient evidence to conclude that homeopathy had any effect. But rather than sort of stopping there and thinking, well, hang on, I've wasted my time doing 3 studies showing that there's no effect, their conclusion was just that more research was needed, which is kind of the homeopathic go-to position. And you think, well, you've had 200 years to research this stuff, and you're still claiming that more research is needed.
To show that it does
so-
anything at all.
Yeah, you've had enough time by now, haven't you, really, to figure out whether it works and what works.
Have you thought of going back to the testing homeopathy series? And because I think you kind of left it on a bit of a cliffhanger. There was something about to come up.
I did.
After the last one.
Yeah, it almost turned out quite ironic in a way, in that there's another part coming up in a homeopathy series, except it isn't there, and that was almost it was almost fitting in a way. I did have a script for part 4, mostly written, and then I got some extra information from the living dinosaur, who was very helpful, and so I was basically going to rewrite it. It needed restructuring to fit in the extra material. There wasn't any way to kind of insert it between the sections that were there. So it really just needed completely rewriting. And as other things came up and I was working on other scripts and World of Batshit and stuff, it just hasn't come up. But I do owe it to the man to finish that and do it.
Cool.
Someone in the chat room asked about your background. That's something I think a lot of people are speculating about.
Well, clearly I'm a government shill,
well, yes, obviously, but I mean,
disguising all manner of conspiracies.
yes, but the government hired you for a reason, right? So, what kind of studies do you have under your belt? Or did the government decide that that was classified?
Yeah, they just
They-
censored you there.
Yeah, that was it. Definitely that.
Oh, someone's asking, do you know that Mr. Arsholes has left YouTube?
Has he?
Yes,
Mr.
apparently.
Arseholes has gone.
Yeah.
Hooray!
Oh my word.
How do you know? Are you happy or sad about that?
Both. Dave Johnson had also left temporarily, but I think he has returned. He was the subject of World of Batshit 2,
Oh,
the
so-
guy who thought the moon was a hologram.
And have you heard any more from Monroe at all?
No, he did make a post shortly after the video was uploaded and basically accused me of being part of the conspiracy, of course. But he didn't respond to my simple questions asking him to provide some substantiation for his claim that aircraft were demons.
Which, of course, is where we have Happy Pig Demon from. So
Yes.
we've got him to thank for that, really.
You do.
Oh, that's a brilliant question. How do you screen out pose?
That's incredibly difficult. I take the viewpoint that if somebody is deliberately pretending to be stupid and is doing so on a consistent basis, such that they've got a channel with loads of videos on it, then it doesn't really matter whether they're pretending or not, because if they're that committed to putting across a front of being stupid, then you'd may as well treat them as if they're being stupid.
Sean, are you there? Yeah, welcome to the show, Sean.
Hello.
Ah, Mr. Hufford, good evening.
All right, so
How are you guys doing tonight?
Yeah, you're on with the team, so ask your question.
Well, first thing I got to do is I got to apologize to Marty because in one of my parodies I misspelled sweet.
It's okay.
Other than that, I just wanted to cover a bit of Mr. Arseholes because I've actually been back and forth with him since he came to YouTube and started on the whole Flat Earth thing. Well, his leaving was just really, really suspicious because he made a video that he left up for about 6 hours, basically calling everybody that's involved in the Flat Earth movement a shill or a troll or just disinformation agents. That video got taken down 6 hours after he posted it, and then he started just making all of his videos unlisted. After about 2 weeks, he brought 10 of his videos back as listed, but he disabled all comments on everything. And in the past couple days, he's actually dropped it back down to 2 videos that are listed. So he's just kind of like, he's not decided on whether he's coming or going, but I'm pretty sure that after he was covered by World of Batshit, he's pretty well done.
Oh my, the sister man, like ColdHardLogic. That was actually one of the best things you ever did. Someone actually believe the Earth is flat. I'm sorry. Like, how does satellites work? Like, if the water.
They don't exist, of course. They're just part of the NASA conspiracy, apparently.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Everyone that's using satellite TV is a shill.
Yes.
But I think on Mr. Arsehole's disappearing, Rory Cooper did do a similar thing. He disappeared, I think not long after I started covering him. He kind of chucked down his channel, took off all his videos, and then suddenly reappeared under the name My Perspective and started making lots of new videos, claiming that it wasn't because everybody had dissed him in the comments and proved that his videos were complete bullshit. It was because he wanted to redefine his whole thing, but then just came out with the exact same arguments all over again. But of course, now nobody's got the comments in his comment section because he's blocked everyone out.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if Mr. Arseholes tries the same thing, or maybe he has just given up. We'll have to see.
Well, it's been 4 months. I don't think he's ever going to come back the way he did because of the bridges he burned with his last video that he left up for 6 hours.
Wasn't he kind of claiming that people who... They were the wrong kind of flat earther or something like that?
At one point, yeah.
Yeah, they can't decide on what their own model is.
But this is a big thing in that movement. They have loads of their own heretics, apostates, all this, and they've started decrying each other. I think mainly since Eric Dubé came on the scene and all his group kind of started decrying everybody else as being the wrong type of flat earther. You've suddenly got this massive infighting going on, which is hilarious to sit back and watch.
And what they're basically saying about all the other cults, if you will, is that all the other ones are pose.
Yeah, pretty much. I
think the easiest way to keep that pot stirring is just occasionally throw something in, like, I think it's a triangle.
But the most hilarious thing is watching them kind of decry each other as kind of pose and heretics and stuff, but then noticing that not one of them can spot an actual Poe, because they all put up the Canadian Flat Earth Society video, which of course was a satire and wasn't actually meant as a this is a flat earth video, but they all claim that it proves the earth is flat. So not only can they not spot it when somebody is, when somebody's on their side, they can't spot it when somebody's taking the piss out of them.
It just shows how ridiculous the whole thing is, that they can't even tell the real from the guy taking the piss out of them.
Yeah, but then are we surprised that they can't tell reality from, dream and, their imagination when they believe the earth is flat?
Yeah, one thing that comes to my mind all the time when I try dealing with these people or just reading their material is, do they actually believe it? I mean, they are arguing for it and they seem emotionally invested in it, but they don't seem like they believe in anything consistent.
Yeah. know what you mean.
It seems like they're just arguing to argue.
Yeah,
It's not so much
Yeah.
arguing to argue. It's every time I've seen that, I love calling it a community because it's basically a mental ward. Every time I see them like talking and tearing each other apart, it always boils down to the same thing. Someone makes a decent point, someone else defends it, and sort of, in doing so, paints them farther and farther into the corner until they have to jump out, and then someone else says, "But you said this before, and now you're saying this." Like, "Oh, you're just a fucking Poe, you don't know anything." It's brilliant.
Would that be the Tiger Dan situation?
Pretty much.
Well, since we actually end that, so we have to talk about people who believe in chemtrails. I'm sorry. Anyone who believes that, you're really stupid. It's complaints.
That
Oh,
is
but if you
that is
just,
batshit
like-
stuff right there.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I could talk about that.
What is it? If you get a watering can and fill it with vinegar and just pour it everywhere, it works perfectly. It kills all your flowers, but yeah, who needs those?
The one
That's
thing
brilliant. Homing vinegar.
the one thing that's wondering about about the whole flat Earth idea. I don't even want to call it a hypothesis or anything anywhere near scientific. But how do they explain? As you go towards the equator, it gets warmer, and how do you explain the Arctic? Because as far as I know, in the way the sun works, it just rolls around aimlessly around the Earth. So everything should be, getting the same amount of sun. So how do they
To
explain?
play devil's advocate, if the world ended at the equator, their model would hold some merit. But since there's a world beyond the equator, it doesn't.
Oh,
It
also,
kind of
But they
would
think,
and
but
it
they
wouldn't.
think no one can have any information about what lies beyond the equator because the southern hemisphere is just part of the conspiracy,
My first video kind of pulled someone up on this because they made a very similar argument. And the thing is, circles and spheres are not the same shape. And you would be able to tell by measuring distances
Yes.
whether you're on a circle or a sphere.
Correct.
Because geometrically, the only way those distances can all be the same if the shapes are congruent.
Okay, yeah, we'll let Carden speak right now. I think he's been trying to get in for a while. And then we'll go back to Sean, and then, because we've got other callers, then we'll move on to the next callers. Okay, so Carden, you've got another question in.
Okay, here's another big issue with the flat earthers. Basically, if the wall was flat, we'd be able to actually see Mount Everest from Angola.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's pretty
but
much-
they don't understand that.
That's where
think-
they start appealing to.
I'd be able to see New York from Anguilla.
I think the way that works is it's basically whoever it is that programmed the game forgot to increase the draw distance that far, and they have fog of war.
Yeah. No, but what they're actually saying is, well, you can. You just need a very powerful telescope. And when you give them a powerful telescope, they say, well, it's not powerful enough.
They might see the other side because of the horizon.
Are you trying to get them to make sense or what?
That's not going to
gonna
work.
happen. No, but they actually believe that you can see straight across the Atlantic. But the reason we don't do that is that we need more magnification. Then, our eyes can't make out things at that distance.
Yeah.
We're able to see
Actually,
stars
yeah.
millions of miles away, but we can't actually see like Mount Everest that's about a few thousand miles away.
But
Yeah, well,
they
they
also
think
that
they think
aren't
stars
that
are
far.
really close by.
Yeah.
Like that firmament crap, like in the Old Testament.
Yeah.
All
I
right,
think stars are attached to the firmament.
That's actually
Yeah.
pretty funny too. Like basically, if you actually look at the creation story, like in Genesis, basically most of it only works when you consider the firmament.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, Carden, like I say, we've got so many people wanting to call. If you don't mind, we'll have to drop you. You can call in the next show. Thanks for your call anyway.
Thanks for calling in.
Yeah, we just need
It's a
to...
pleasure. But
Cheers.
just on the firmament, that actually sounds pretty similar to what Dara Breen said in one of the shows a few years ago. But young pseudoscientists having live debates on the BBC. They were saying you're hardly going to have a physicist, a cosmologist, having a debate with somebody who believes that the sky is a carpet painted by God.
I've seen that show. He does it so well as
Yeah.
well.
All right, and Sean, you can have another question. Like I say, we're just trying to get to the other callers, so...
And I'll go ahead and honor that. I just wanted to pop in and give my apology to Marty for misspelling Swede, and I had my 2 cents on spirit science, so thank you for having me on.
Yeah, Swede is spelt Norw.
If you want to spell it in their actual language, it's CUNT.
Take care, guys.
All right, thanks, Sean. We'll move on to
Cheers, man. There's something else I was going to ask. If somebody set up magically a debate somehow with Robert's son Janice, would you turn up ColdHardLogic?
No, I just don't think it's worthwhile, really.
Yeah.
I mean, debates are generally not worthwhile. It's not really about who's got the best points or anything like that. It's a bit like an American presidential election. It's really just a popularity contest.
Yeah.
So, no, I don't think it's worth it.
Okay.
Debating an issue where there's a factual answer is pointless. I mean, you check what the result is. You don't see what arguments you can come up with. And you know, a rhetorical contest is not going to change reality. You just check what reality says.
Yeah.
Indeed.
You don't have debates on which number is bigger, 7 or 8.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like John Oliver
You
said
don't
before
have
on climate
debates about
change.
Shit like, you know, which vegetable's the best. It's obviously the potato because you boil it, mash it, stick it in a stew, and make booze from it. Get your shit together.
And make chips as well.
Glorious chips.
Yep.
I think when it comes to debates like that, you're quite right. And what ends up happening is you just end up giving airtime and a platform to people with stupid ideas.
One thing, sorry, just before we go to the caller, someone's came up with a great question for ColdHardLogic. Would you rather a pint of stale beer or have dinner with Jordan?
Ooh,
Decisions.
it's got to be the stale beer, hasn't it?
Oh my God! You're going to take one for the team there.
Yep.
All right.
I'd actually go with a dinner because then I could order something a lot stronger than beer.
Okay, and next up is Isaac.
I had never really thought much about homeopathy until I saw a lesson from James Randi, and I believe his comparison with homeopathy was 1 parts in 10, which was really, really stupid. And then CHL's video says 1 part in 100, which made it even worse.
Wow.
Yeah, it should actually be more like 1 part in
30, 10 to the power of 30, is it? It's 30C.
Yeah, something like that.
It's 1 and 10, 1 and 10, 1 and 10. So it's maybe 1 and 10 to the power of 30. So
There's
basically,
two
there's
dilution.
nothing in it.
There's two
Diluted
dilution
beyond
methods.
Avogadro's.
Yes,
C and
repeating that
C.
mixture over and over and over and over and over, just it increases the problem like tenfold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or 100-fold if it's a C dilution, because you do it 1 in 100, and then again and again and again. So 30C is 1 in 100, 30 times. So it just becomes ridiculous.
Wasn't there supposed to be a dilution that was that they recommended where it would end up being 1 drop in the entire universe? Something as
Probably
ridiculous
something
as
like
that.
that. I think one of the standard delusions is one atom in a sphere with a radius of Neptune's orbit, or something like that.
That does sound pretty good.
Has anyone actually ever done a study where they've the homeopathy treatment and then just
then diluting it like 2 billion times, repeating the process.
Yeah, and then just given just pure water and seeing what
I haven't done that, but I have walked into a homeopathy office, sat down to make an appointment, asked for a cup of water, drank it, and said, "Fuck, I feel brilliant," and walked out. They really do not appreciate that.
But here's something I never understood. Do they understand that they're reusing the same water over and over again?
Apparently not. And how
Because
do you...
there isn't enough water to dilute something like the way they do it.
And by their own standards, how could you possibly prepare the water anyway? Because...
Yeah.
And how does it remember? How does it, forget all the nasty stuff that's been in it? All the
I'd love to see.
toxins, poisons.
Yeah, well, those only have beneficial effects, You're supposed to, what they're saying is that whatever causes a problem, if you dilute it enough, that will cure that. So you
Again,
should be
by
more
nice
concerned with
analogy.
what if there has been medicine in the water?
But don't some homeopathists believe that that modern medicine is also poison? So shouldn't that delusion cure?
Something I
Yeah,
would love to try
that's kind of
with,
where it blurs the line with the anti-vax brigade, isn't it? This general feeling that medicine is, evil, causes illnesses rather than cures it.
You even get that a little bit with spirit science, where he starts talking about crystals and Western medicine being a bit iffy. And
Yep.
like,
Yes.
no, if that was the case, then doctors would have giant fucking chunks of quartz hanging around their neck and beating patients with it.
Yeah, operating
you know
theatres
a
would
great
look like
business.
something out of Tomb Raider, but they don't.
You know a great business model is, right, to kill your customers.
A bit of a bummer for repeat business, though.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for the call anyway, and we'll speak to you again some other time.
Tell you what, Isaac, if you have any more questions, you can drop them in
It's
the
all
chat,
right.
and we'll see if we can ask them for you.
Don't know how to pronounce that, but welcome, caller.
Greetings.
Ah, yes, you're on. You're on with the
You can hear
panel?
me?
Yep, we hear you loud
yeah.
and clear, so ask your question.
All right. So my question is both to both ColdHardLogic and Mortimer. Do you have any tips for people who want to start doing the kind of stuff that you guys do on YouTube?
Don't be
I suppose
Norwegian.
number one would just be check the claims that are being made against reality, and then just kind of work backwards from there. What I do in writing various episodes isn't anything particularly complicated. Essentially, I just do what Potholer 54 does. Check the claim being made, see if there's any evidence for it, try and find studies, etc., that support it, and if there aren't any, then it's probably horse poo.
Or bollocks.
Putting it very politely.
Yes. I know, Annie Skyrider, you had a conversation with Jordan, didn't you? Trying to get him to kind of address various problems in his material.
Yeah, he kind of ducked and dodged around that a little bit, I would say.
Yeah, he'll do
And
that.
then eventually he sort of turned things around on me when I'm talking about... my memory is a little faded. I talked a little bit about him with some stuff. Wow, I can't remember too well, but basically eventually he turned things around on me because he was talking before about how he wanted to, like, I guess start his own science group or something, start pumping out his own research for his crap.
That's
But yeah,
the
he
stuff
wants to
about
make
flying
wants to make
cars.
hovercars as well.
I'm sorry, what?
He wants to make
flying
hovercars
cars.
as well.
Yeah, and somehow the topic of, like, trusting him or something came up, and eventually he somehow turned that around on me, and then he mentioned something that at no point had actually been mentioned in the conversation, which was somehow me being involved with helping him or something, and now I had lost that chance, and I was almost dumbfounded, like...
You're just not part of the cult anymore.
Yeah, having
banished
a
for life.
conversation with him in person, or I've had exchanges with him on Facebook, and he's just weird. I mean, he will just get. It's like his mood towards you will just flip for no reason.
In one moment, I can't quite tell if it's quite jovial, joking around, and other times it's more serious. Like, I think I made a joke with aliens and stuff or something, and then that actually kind of turned into something slightly serious for a moment. And I'm just like, wait, wow, you really believe that? Not even as kind of like what your fans say, which is, oh, it's just this new information, not quite sure, it's just all of this other stuff. And no, I think he actually takes, like, the aliens thing seriously, rather than what I did when I used to believe his crap, which was just, oh, it was this thing, don't pay any attention to it.
Space Jews.
That's the answer to everything.
Don't forget secret satanic Illuminati Satanists. I said that was redundant. Secret Illuminati Martian Satanists there.
Yeah.
If you want to add more redundancy to that, go ahead.
I'm sorry, but I have a quick message I need to pass on from Redline to Ziller. You're a hipster.
He's a fucker.
If I have one piece of advice, though, to go back to your original question, it is to just be yourself and have fun with what you're doing.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing, because sure, you can try to copy what someone else does, sort of take their basic formula but make it your own. That's okay, but what you can't do is think in terms of what will work, what will get me shit tons of views, what will make me popular, because you need to have fun with it.
Yeah,
indeed.
Yeah.
That's why I don't do that, and I find that kind of quite amusing when I get comments from spirit science fans just kind of basically appealing to his popularity. And
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like, well, I don't care.
Ad populum.
Yeah,
I believe is what it's
if
called.
if I wanted to become popular, if that was my main goal, then I would not have made debunking videos. I would have made entertainment-related videos. I would have been playing video games and reviewing bad movies and stuff like that. This isn't about popularity. People do not get popular saying things that are already commonly accepted.
Yeah.
If you want to get popular, either do something entertaining or say something controversial.
So,
do funny cat
like
videos.
Donald Trump?
Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
I think most of his popularity comes from the fact that he doesn't know how to wear a toupee.
All right, Annie. So like I say, we've got heaps of callers lined up. So do you have anything else, or are we okay to move on?
Couldn't quite. I think maybe I had a joke or something. So I think I'll just kind of go back to the original point really quick.
Yeah.
What I was asking from was coming more from the experience of I'm inexperienced with like general research kind of thing. So I was thinking maybe more in the line of research. Resources as well, and just like how you actually deal with these things. Because while I sort of have the general idea of how to do debates and stuff, what I don't really have a whole lot of great practice with is proper scientific research. That's something that I don't quite know how to get started into.
Okay.
Google.
Yeah. What is your level of knowledge of science? I mean, what education do you have?
I'm actually trying to work on I'm working on trying to finish my high school education and then move on from there. So I realize I may be kind of jumping the gun when I start doing this stuff, but at the same time, I also think maybe I could, by doing this stuff, I could also learn more. So it'd sort of almost be like an extracurricular activity in addition to my normal education.
Yeah, and that can work. But what you have to do is you have to remember, don't go over your own head.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I won't be addressing, geocentrism when I can barely understand half the math or maths for other countries and stuff that ColdHardLogic is going into.
Exactly. That is a problem. You have to stick to something that you can actually
address.
Yeah. You need to be able to defend your own points. You can't just say, well, the math says so.
Right.
If you don't know anything about the math.
Exactly.
Then you should simply say, well, this is commonly accepted by the scientific community, and I trust them because I have no choice. My own knowledge is limited, so I trust the experts.
And then they'll pull so you have faith in science on you.
Yes, exactly. So that's a useless thing to bring up.
Right.
But on the other hand, anyone in high school should be able to debunk anything creationists say about evolution, for example, because all you basically need to know is that if something dies before reproducing, it doesn't reproduce.
Right, although I won't.
You just explained evolution.
Yeah, I think I have a pretty decent layman understanding of evolution, but say, for example, I can't back up any of my claims with, say, XYZ peer-reviewed research, like what Aaron Ra would do, because I don't really know how to look for those things and such.
No, and that can be tricky, because you need to know how to look for them. And there's Google Scholar, and there's
PubMed.
PubMed, yeah. But the problem is those are technical papers, and you need to have some level of expertise in order to understand them.
Right.
So if you were going to do some kind of like layman style thing, there are resources out there. What you have to do is you need to look at the subject you're taking on, and there are specific resources for specific subjects. So like evolution,
Right. You can find lots of
Talk Origins is a great resource.
Yes. Yeah, you can find lots of resources for basic like layman education. You can find plenty of resources that explain the Big Bang, but it doesn't, say go into the maths that really prove it. So that wouldn't be very convincing to general creationists, because it would just be a repetition of the current scientific accepted model, scientific model, rather than really the stronger proof that I would think would be more satisfying to provide.
On the other side, if you do kind of, and believe me, we've done this, you give them the maths and you give them the actual science, and it goes way over their head, and they just go, "Oh, science is a lie."
Yeah.
Right,
so
which is why you would want to break it down.
You can't win either way. So the best thing to do with debunking is don't do it for them, do it for you. Do it because you want to learn something. So when you look at something, go and research it as much as possible, learn about it as much as possible, produce a video because it helps you kind of learn about it, but then don't worry about what they say, because they're never going to believe you anyway.
Right. And in a way, I think
if someone changes their mind, see that as a bonus, but that's it.
Yeah, no, I'm aware of that. Don't ever go into a debate of any kind expecting to change anyone's mind. My mindset is more to just go in to learn something.
Yeah.
And if they learn something, if it turns out that I am actually like right in my entirety, then that's like really cool. Well, and as in like another thought, say for example, I believe ColdHardLogic, you went into like trigonometry and stuff for determining the distance from the Earth to the Sun. And I feel like, and stuff like that, you could easily just break that down in slower steps. I'm not like criticizing your style of presentation, just as a general explaining things to people who don't understand, is that you can kind of break out why the math works and thus demonstrate that you can in fact use this, rather than just going over it and then they'll go science is lies, math is lies. Kind of break it down. I want to kind of go thorough when I do my videos as much as I can.
Then you're going to run into a very big problem, and that is time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because if you have to explain, like I had this sort of nightmare situation when I was supposed to try to explain the FLRW equation. That's the equation that describes how space expands in the Big Bang Theory. Explain that to someone who has no understanding of calculus.
Yeah.
Okay, basically I have to give him at least 2 or 3 years of math classes. I can't do that in a 10-minute video. That's not going to happen. I'm going to have to skip over a lot of stuff.
Whenever you make videos, it's a constant check between lots of different variables, amounts of information, what you're addressing, time constraints, all kinds of interesting stuff that can be quite the challenge. Although I guess that's why, sending out other online resources for people to learn from and comment sections are, there. That's a great thing.
Yeah. But what I did in that situation was I actually decided that, okay, I know I can't do this. So what I did instead was I tried making it so obviously way above his head. So I sort of turned it into a joke instead.
And then maybe that would
I'm
spark...
basically saying, look, if you don't understand what the hell I'm talking about, well, there's your problem.
And then that can kind of spark, go learn some more. And even if it doesn't react in that person, it might react in other viewers. Wow, there's way more to the subject than I thought. Better go research.
Exactly. That's my litmus test for is someone capable of having a discussion about quantum mechanics. I present the Schrödinger equation. Can you explain this? If they say no, well, okay, then you haven't taken lesson 1.
Okay,
I can tell I'm starting to. I've been on here for a while. So
I say we've got it's not to be rude, but we've got so many callers. We want to make sure they'll get it.
I understand.
Okay,
I understand perfectly.
Thanks very much for your call. It's much appreciated.
All right, thank you for having me on. Have a great one, everyone.
Cheers.
I'll still be in the comment or on the chat room, talking and stuff.
It's as much as Cal's trying to be nice, he's really just a Skype Nazi who doesn't want anyone to talk because he's evil and Scottish.
But it is difficult when you're writing stuff to try and strike a balance between explaining things right from the get-go up to the level you want to get it to versus just diving straight in. Because you don't want to just go, well, there's this, and that's why, therefore, I don't need to spend any more time on it. So it's kind of trying to get that curve so you can perhaps sort of introduce topics to people who aren't necessarily familiar with them in a way that is hopefully engaging, whilst also trying to keep the pace of the video going for people who are familiar with them, because you don't want to switch them off by covering material that they already know.
Yeah.
So it can be quite difficult from a writing point of view.
I think when I look at your Testing Geocentrism series as a whole, you've kind of done that fairly nicely, because you do start off with the series with the very kind of the Ptolemaic, this is the easiest bit to debunk geocentrism, the Ptolemaic model, and you start off with the idiot Fernie boy, and you kind of explain some of the very simplest steps there, and then as the series has gone on, you've gone a bit further and further into harder and harder topics, but you've kind of got that arc where it's gone from simple to more complex in a way that, you know, makes it engaging, entertaining, and accessible.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
All right, got to speed through the callers right now. So, Jacob, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. So you're on with the panel. Like I said, we're running low on time, so if you can get through, I hate to be rushing folk, but you're on, so ask your question.
Well, I have a very specific question. This is one thing I've always wondered. With the flat earthers, how is it that they can get around or tie the metal knots that they need to do to get around the fact that on the first detailed survey of Great Britain, that they found, or they realized, or they had to compensate for the fact that they were measuring triangles on a non-Euclidean plane. They added up to more than 180. The angles added up to more than 180 degrees.
That's very easy. The results were fake.
Actually, it's more than that. They don't even address it. They don't acknowledge it. There's not a flat earther. I've brought this up to them before, and they just act as if it's never happened, as if nobody's been able to do that. Or when people have said they've done it, like Marty says, it's either fake or they say that you can't measure it that precisely, so they must be just making it up. But mostly they just don't want to even answer it.
That's one thing I've never been able to understand, how they can just say everything is fake. Math is fake. They have the markers. They're a great big historical thing in Great Britain. They have the markers all over the island.
Yeah. Well, I had the best flat earther response I ever had was a guy got pissed off with me giving him some very basic maths, and he just went, trigonometry's a lie. It's made up to justify the ball earth. And yeah. I'm sorry, but if you know anything about geometry, trigonometry is nothing more than the logical extension of what is one of the first most basic laws of shapes. You know, any shapes or any two different sized shapes with the same number of sides and values for angles, the ratios of the sides of those shapes are always exactly the same. Yeah. And that's true for any two shapes of any two sizes, as long as they're the same shape. Their ratios of their sides are always exactly the same. That's all that trigonometry is. So to say trigonometry,
and of course that was made up by NASA.
Well, yeah. This is something that children learn on their own. You know, so how can you say
it was made up by NASA 100 years before NASA, or more than 100 years before NASA ever was even conceived of.
In that case, space Jews.
And the thing is, I mean, all you need to demonstrate that is just, a piece of paper or a piece of graph paper, and you just draw some shapes on it that are, the same proportions, measure the sides, and oh look, it works, because there's no getting around it. So
and then they'll say, well, yeah, it works if you draw triangles on a piece of paper, but the Earth is not a piece of paper.
Yeah, your paper is part of the conspiracy.
Yeah.
Wait, wasn't there a flat earther that went off on one saying that people who use GoPros to film the horizon are part of the conspiracy because GoPros?
Yeah, because of the fisheye thing.
Yeah. Although
they're not even fisheye lenses; they're just wide angle.
Yeah. The image gets distorted. That's the point.
Yeah,
and of course, what they're missing is that no one is using that footage to try to prove that the Earth is round. We know that it's round anyway.
Yeah. Juranism came up with the best argument that I'd ever heard, which was about planets appearing to be spheres when you look through your telescope, which was telescopes are made as part of the conspiracy to make planets look like spheres.
Nice.
The fact that you can watch them rotating is entirely irrelevant.
Yeah.
No, that's just someone running a canvas over the top of it really quickly.
I did want to mention just real quick before because I'm gonna drop the call real quick. Thank you very much, ColdHardLogic, for your testing geocentrism series. I've actually referred that to several people who are taking introductory astronomy classes because it has just as much information in a more concise format as a semester does.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Jacob.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Thanks.
Actually, that's something I did want to bring up, and I know I've spoken to you about it before, CHL, but and we touched on it with the last caller as well, that this was one of the important and fun things about doing these debunking videos is learning about the subject that you're debunking and it being a tool rather than something that, is going to put the lie to rest. It acts as a tool for other people who want to learn about subjects that might be a little bit boring at school or a little bit hard to understand.
Yeah.
When they see it visually and in an entertaining way with a comedy backdrop, it makes it more accessible. And I know you've said something similar with doing your testing geocentrism series.
Yeah, because I used to get the question of who are the target of this video, because if it's geocentrists, then you're not going to convince them. I was like, well, that's okay. I'm not trying to, because they're not the target audience. So essentially, kind of two audiences really. One of the fence sitters who aren't sure, who may be swayed by the sort of rhetoric of geocentrism and various other pseudosciences, and the other is basically people who want to learn more about the subjects and kind of give them topic pointers and introductions to subjects that they can then go and do more research on. And I find that is far more compelling from the point of view of writing things and trying to present things than specifically trying to actually, debunk the original claim or convert the people who believe in it ardently, because if you try and convert them, then you're not going to succeed, because experience shows they're just not interested in actually finding out why they're wrong or if they're wrong.
Yeah.
All right, Amon, you're with us, so you're on with ColdHardLogic. Ask your question.
Okay, thank you. So basically a question I had was, the first one was basically, hold on one second. Okay, so basically what I wanted to ask is I wanted to ask three questions specifically. I'm going to make this quick with respect to ColdHardLogic, or no, not to ColdHardLogic, to Trolling with Logic, because I know that you have a really long queue list. So basically what I want to ask you is, so this is my first question specifically to ColdHardLogic. So is your next World of Batshit video going to be specifically in relation to Jeranism? Because, I just want to punch that guy in the face. He's probably one of the most pervasively annoying / punk-like flat earthers I've ever encountered. He's the only person I think I've ever seen who's both delusional and a douche about it.
I tend to agree. He did win Red's Rhetoric's Dumb Fuck of the Year award, which seemed to be entirely deserved.
I agree, yeah. He's getting it in the mail.
I have a script which I'm writing at the moment. At the moment, I'm not quite sure whether it fits in with the sort of general approach of World of Batshit, or whether it needs to be something separate, perhaps a one-off episode or something like that. But yeah, I've got the script which I'm working on at the moment.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so now in trying to make this quick, my other question is going to be specifically to the entire panel here. And what it is do you guys foresee, in the foreseeable future, do you guys see there being sort of our first sort of crackpot, supposed, diploma mill scientist like Kent Hovind, who claims to be a believer in the flat Earth? Do you think we're going to see that anytime soon?
It wouldn't surprise me.
We kind of already have. There's somebody who, the thing is, you've got a few people who claim kind of credentials that are getting closer. You've got Matt Boylan who says he's ex-NASA when all he was he was attached to a PR company that dealt with them and made computer graphics. Then you've got Mr. Lion Connive, or Thrive and Survive, whatever his name is.
All he did was pass on data in the Navy, meteorological data.
Yeah, he says he was a meteorologist and he was just a dog's body in the meteorological department of the Navy. He never did any actual studies to do with meteorology. He did a 2 or 3 month course. So you've got these people starting to come out. As to whether you're actually going to have a scientist come out or somebody with anything close to PhD, I doubt it. But then geocentrists do have Bow and Humphreys, don't they? So we never know.
Yeah, I also let's see. I remember a comment section war I had with a flat earther who claimed that he was a quantum geophysicist, whatever that means.
Yeah. Yeah, they'll say
anyway,
something
okay,
like
so yeah, exactly. Okay, so my final question was basically for the entire panel, and it's probably my longest question, but to save time, I'm just going to say it bluntly. Okay, so how do flat earthers respond to the problem of distance between longitudinal lines in the southern hemisphere? I'll give an example. So the longitude and latitude of Sydney is 33.86 degrees south, 151.20 degrees east. And then so if you compare that with the longitude and latitude of Perth, that would be a little bit higher, so 31.95 degrees south, and then 115 degrees east. So if you do the simple subtraction, you get about 35.3 degrees of longitudinal change between those two locations. Now, by flight times and the accepted distance, of odometers and cars is 2,048 miles. Yet if you calculate the arc length on a disk using radians with the distance from the North Pole, if you assume that that's the single convergence point on the flat Earth, you get a distance of like 5,200 miles. Have you ever brought up that point with any of the flat earthers you guys have talked to?
No, because I'm too drunk.
No, I know exactly what they'll say. They'll say it's a lie.
Yeah, that's all they do.
But they have. That's one that I quite often bring up is the longitude. Even more so is the fact that degrees of longitude as you go further south, they should always increase in length if the Earth is flat, but actually they decrease either side of the equator, which is proof that the Earth curves both in the north-south and east-west directions. Which proves it's a sphere. They just say no, you prove it. Go and measure it. Well, you go and measure it. I have been in the southern hemisphere and we had to measure this. So
that's the thing. They always seem to think it's other people's responsibility to go and do the hard work, and then never actually do
and then
anything.
when you cite someone who has done the hard work, then that's not good enough because they're lying.
Yeah,
indeed.
Exactly, and also, right before I leave, I'm just going to bring up one other point. So I'm about to leave Trolling with Logic, so don't worry too much. So here's basically what I wanted to bring up. So the flight time between Sydney and Perth, Qantas have about 6 flights a day that go between those two locations. It's exactly 3 hours and 43 minutes to cross that distance of about 3,297 kilometers is what we're looking at. Well, it turns out that in the northern hemisphere, if you are going exactly on the 33rd parallel, so you could go between. There's actually a direct flight between San Diego and Columbia, South Carolina, which is almost the exact same distance. It's 2,076 miles between the two locations. You'll find that it has a flight time of 3 hours 45 minutes. So you really get a sense of the symmetry of the northern and southern hemisphere as far as distances go. I'm just done with dealing with these people. It's been a burden on me for the past 9 months, and I just want it over with.
Oh, that's entirely understandable.
One more thing.
Yeah.
I actually just want to make a statement. I don't see at this point the flat Earth movement growing. They've really hit sort of, I think, a peak. And actually, at this point, they're declining because they're tearing each other apart. I mean, we all talked about the whole Tiger Dan situation, with him not accepting the azimuth equidistant projection as the true flat Earth. Any opinions on that from anyone?
All right.
Yeah, I hope you're right.
Yeah.
I think, to be honest, they have hit a bit of a plateau, and I think that's it for now, really.
Okay, yeah. Well, I just wanted to thank everybody in the panel right here. I want to thank Trolling with Logic. ColdHardLogic, it was awesome to be able to be in your presence. I love your videos. Mari, I hope I see you soon in the future. I haven't talked with you for a few months. And goodbye, everyone.
Bye. Thanks for the call.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, you're welcome.
In fact, there's a thing with CHL. Since you've now covered both subjects, geocentrism and flat Earth, and obviously there's there's a lot of crossover between the two, plus infighting between the two. I mean, I love watching Bowden take on Rory Cooper, for instance. It's fucking hilarious.
I've not seen that.
Oh, it's brilliant in the comment sections to some of his earlier videos. You have people putting down, "What, seriously, Bowden, you draw the line there." It's fine for the entire universe to spin around you, but the Earth can't be flat. But
I'm not sure I trust Malcolm Bowden to draw a line, actually.
Yeah, actually, you might be right. But between the two groups, do you see... I mean, how large do you see geocentrism as a group compared to flat earthers, or do you think they're comparable in size as movements?
I haven't really compared them as groups in that kind of depth. There's really only so much horse shit I can take at any one time. So I tend not to spend too much time immersing myself in that kind of stuff.
Fair play.
Wasn't there some study that showed that 40% of Americans believe that
You
the
do
sun
realize
moves
that
around the Earth?
40% of Republicans wanted to bomb Alibaba.
Oh yeah, yeah. But the point is, people are morons.
Yeah.
Well, the Chinese wholesale website.
Yeah. I can hear somebody clicking. Oh. All right. We are running slightly over, so I've decided to combine the last two callers. Micro and Red, are you there? Okay, Red replied first, so you're in with the question before Micro.
I don't have a question. I just want to.
I'm here, but I can't hear you.
Shut up, Gloganism. No one likes you.
Anyway, Micro, ask your question.
Okay, anyway. Ziller, get back in contact with me. I've been trying to contact you for months now, you asshole. Pumpkin, go fuck yourself. ColdHardLogic, love your work. Thank you very much for the inspiration. And see you guys later, I guess.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. And thank you for your assistance when my video was flagged. That was superb. Thank you.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. My pleasure, trust me. Peace out, guys.
He did send me videos of him masturbating when he did that.
Okay.
It was deeply disturbing.
Micro, you better say something now.
So ColdHardLogic. Yeah, of all the topics that have been covered in World of Batshit, which one of them would you consider the most batshittiest?
I think the general denial of the existence of space and things in space is pretty much up there, because you really only need modest equipment to go and look at these things for yourself.
Like eyes.
Yeah, eyes are a good start. So, testing your own beliefs in these things really isn't that difficult. And so if you're claiming that space doesn't exist, all it really says to me is that you haven't even been outside at night.
Okay, we know you're on a delay, Micro, so I'm going to hang up, so you'll probably just get in a few minutes, all right?
Yeah, no mind.
Actually, I just wanted to ask quickly, as you brought up with Reds, how did that whole flagging thing kind of play out? When was it Mr. Arseholes who flagged you?
No, that was Insanity is Sanity.
That was it. How did that play out in the end? I know you got your video back up. Did you find it difficult to do, or?
Well, the approach that I took was that rather than just immediately countering the flagging, which seems to be kind of a pain in the arse that works in the flagger's favour, I would take the approach of just contesting it by form of a video. And as it happened, they responded pretty quickly, within a few hours really, and retracted their claim. So the video was put back up.
All right. Just one last question. Which of all the groups have you got gave you the most funny hate mail?
Easily Spirit Science.
I just said
going and going.
And it's like Marty always said, it's like, it's like always Jordan preaches love and tolerance. I hope you die of cancer. Namaste. Yeah. That's pretty much the standard thing they always say.
They just seem to be completely unaware of their own hypocrisy and double standards when they come out with stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's quite remarkable.
I think they're just unaware of everything.
I think you had your hate mail fanboy, Mr. Patrick Bendig, who was trying to use a Disney cartoon to prove that sacred geometry was true.
Yeah, that was quite funny.
Yeah, I think
sacred geometry has credibility because there was a Donald Duck cartoon about it.
Yeah, Ben.
Sadly, I couldn't be bothered to look up his source material on that occasion, on the basis that every other source he'd provided didn't say anything even vaguely like he claimed it did. And I really just have never liked Donald Duck.
All right, I think
that's a certain kind of special.
Yeah. Okay, I think we can close out the show right now. And with that, there's one last question we could kind of links in, as we always say. Guest, you've got a wee soapbox, and someone's asking how soon till World of Batshit 6 as well.
I suspect probably a few weeks. I don't have quite as much time to do videos as I used to have. Plus also not having several scripts written in advance like I did with testing geocentrism. So that doesn't help the process. So probably a few weeks, just because I don't have as much time as I used to have.
Okay, and anything else you want to say? This is your soapbox moment now.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for watching.
Yep, no problem at all. And as always, friend the panel for your thoughts, Marty.
Yeah, it was great having you here. But there's one thing I think we have to do, because I think people are wondering, should we say something like, of course, it's bollocks?
I think we should.
Yeah.
Of course, it's bollocks.
Hey! And the whole chat room just fangasmed there, I think. Zilla, what do you have to say for yourself?
Just cheers for being on. Mainly because this is quite a big deal for me anyway, because you got me started in YouTube viewership. Kind of, I had 5 viewers, and then you passed around my name to people, and suddenly I had hundreds. So thanks for that, and thank you very much for coming on the show and having a word with us.
Cheers, man.
And Pumpkin, what do you have to say?
Someone was asking for my channel. I tried to post it, and Vaughn censored part of it.
Good job.
Yes. They're obviously on the ball, Vaughn. Anyway, what do you have to? Anything else you have to say?
ColdHardLogic, I think your videos are brilliant. The almost dry cynicism that bleeds through every episode just lights up my day.
And Kitch, you haven't said very much, so say something now.
It's just been great to have you on. Like, it was very interesting and funny show. Interesting to hear all the world of pseudoscience and spirit science in particular. So, and thanks for coming on. It's awesome.
And a very big thank you to all the calls. I was struggling to keep up with how many people wanted to call in there. We always love having callers, so thank you very much for taking the time to call in. And with that, a very big apology for the lengthy delay in getting the show back. We are back regular now for a good few years anyway. So we had a few suggestions about we're going to do something with the principle once we can get a hold of a copy of it. And I think ColdHardLogic, you're up for doing something on that with us.
That would be fun, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, like I say,
I was asked to do it, kind of when it was, or before it came out, even before asking me to do it. I was like, well, I'll do it if I don't have to pay to see it.
Yeah, I think what we're going to do is
I have a kind of natural aversion to lining the pockets of charlatans.
Yeah, that's the problem, and it's like I said before the show. The principle seems so bad that nobody's even torrenting it, and I can't get a hold of it that way. But yeah, we're planning to do a commentary track like we did for What the Bleep. So yeah, that is, and we've got commentaries lined up for a whole heap of films, and. Yeah, Kitch, we did speak to Miles about doing one for House of Numbers. I think they're up for that as well. So
that's going to be an interesting...
Yeah, that'll be an interesting one, especially for you. Anyway, thank you very much, everyone. It's fantastic to be back, and we'll see you all in 2 weeks. Thank you all very much. Good night, and enjoy the rest of the weekend wherever you're going.
Good night. Fist and punch things.
Cheers.
This is the
edits.
And geocentrism rather is the same, and I think it's really just egocentrism. These people really want the universe to revolve around them, and apparently just don't like the idea that it doesn't.
Quite reluctant to watch your videos at first when they were recommended, because I heard there's this guys doing awesome videos debunking geocentrism. Say, well, what's the point of that? How do you actually respond to that? Like when folks say, why go after geocentrists? That's just a tiny like fringe crackpot group.
But I think the thing with a lot of fringe ideas is that they start off as fringe and crackpot ideas, and if left unchecked, and if you take that attitude of, well, you don't need to address this because it's just so out there, you don't need to bother, then they just grow. And
that's what happened to
creationism.
Yeah.
And it's what's happening with the Flat Earth movement. I remember saying this about 2-3 years ago. Guys, we need to start doing something about this. Everybody thought, no, it's a bit stupid even for conconspiracy theorists, and then suddenly, boom.
Yeah, it's exploding, it wouldn't surprise me at all if in 5 years, it's pretty much mainstream, just like creationism.
I remember even when you'd be talking to like young Earth creationists, and you'd say, "Oh, I bet you're a flat earther as well," and they'd be stumbling over themselves to say no.
Yeah.
And now you have flat earthers saying, "Oh, well, clearly we're all right because there's so many of us," as opposed to everyone else who has a brain.
Yeah.
I particularly enjoy the occasional flat earther or person of that ilk who isn't also a religious fundamentalist, and they're sort of like, well, no, I don't believe in crazy shit. I'm sorry, but I beg to differ. I mean, you clearly do.
Did you feel, by the way, ColdHardLogic, when you got the rebuttal written up by Sun Genesis Goonies, did that make you feel like you'd finally made it?
Making it, as it were, wasn't really a target. So I was sort of kind of expecting him to do something at some point, but I really didn't bat an eyelid when he did. I just didn't care really. But I read through it, and I read through it with a bucket of popcorn and an oven glove, and it was great.
I particularly like the bit where he's talking his answer to the meteor problem that you brought up. Was that the meteors pass in front of the path of the Earth.
Yeah.
The Earth is stationary and has a path. I want to know how a stationary object can have a path.
Yeah, because I made that point in the video. If the Earth is stationary, it doesn't have a path. Therefore, paths can't cross. And then in his rebuttal, it's like, well, Earth's got a path. It's like, are you even thinking about what you're writing? Come on, man.
I've just got to have, because I know Mortimer's answer to this, but what was your first reaction when you first saw a spirit science video?
Just regret that I didn't pack an oven glove before I started. Actually, my first exposure to spirit science was Mortimer's videos. Yeah, just watching, why do people laugh at spirit science? And as the episodes went on, it just got worse and worse until it got to the human history part. And
I was so afraid of tackling that one because I just saw it. It's over an hour long, and at the time it had a million views, which was at the time that was like his by far most popular video. Back then, I think part one of his series had 50,000 views or something. Yeah. Thinking how am I ever gonna tackle this 1 hour thing? And I started watching it. No, actually, I didn't even start watching it. I watched a reaction video to it, and it was just within 5 minutes, the guy had facepalm, paused to facepalm 100 times, and he had actually brought out booze.
That was funny.
Yeah,
I can't remember the guy's name, but it was
Firefly.
I was going to say, was that Firefly's one?
Yeah. What was the first spirit science video you actually watched, Marty? Because I know I linked you to it, but I didn't bother watching it.
That was part one.
That was part one.
No, it wasn't. No, it was one of the sacred geometry ones.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Because you knew that you were gonna piss me off by sending me something stupid that was math related.
Yeah. Because
I started watching that, and I didn't get through it, but I just thought it was so absolutely ridiculous. So I started watching from the start of the series, and then we've told the story so many times, but I go quiet for like half an hour.
Yeah.
And then I come back on and said, that was the funniest shit ever. I literally fell out of my chair laughing. And I did. I did.
Yeah, because for anyone in the audience that doesn't know, the tradition on our back channel chat was every Friday.
Pretty damn accurate value out of it. And I just thought, come on, Fernie, let's have some maths. And you never get any maths or anything out of these people. It's always just, you're a government shill, and you don't need maths because maths doesn't explain reality, or maths isn't reality. It does explain reality. That's why it works, and that's why it's useful, and that's why people use it.
But maths is hard.
Yeah.
That's
I think it's hilarious when
logarithms are pretty hard, right, Cal?
Yeah. See, I admit I have a problem there. Ziller won't admit his problem, though.
What, the fact that he's a disgusting hipster?
That's at the root of it.
Yeah.
But I do love when you see them try to do like science and maths. Like you see it with Robert's son Janis, who does it. There's a couple of flat earthers like Eric Dubé's tried his hand and failed. But you can easily, very quickly spot the problems they get themselves into. I think that's why a lot of them try not to do the maths and just say, "Oh, maths is nothing. It's all made up."
Or they do the Juranism method, which is say that science is a lie and NASA's fake, and all of those pictures and videos are done in a giant studio.
And have you heard his motivation for why they must be fake?
Because they don't match what he wants everybody to believe, which is he is God, basically.
Well, yeah, that too. But he looks at a picture and says, "This doesn't look real."
And that's it. Argument. That's it.
That's it. He can dismiss anything by saying that doesn't look real.
Yeah.
What I get to see already is these
explain how can you tell? How do you identify it as fake?
You'll never get an answer on that.
No.
What I've also never seen is any of these people, because some of them seem to be quite good at digital art and 3D rendering and stuff like that. But what you'll never see from any of them is what they think the Earth should look like. If it was completely photorealistic and wasn't a fake picture, what should it look like? And they'll never produce that image.
No.
Well, they usually go to that, the bullshit, it looks like someone just stood on a globe, which I find hilarious.
The UN flag.
It's not a round Earth, even though it's a circle. But I think the root for a lot of flat earthers is they love the idea of everything spinning around them, when it just isn't the case, because, as we all know, Earth goes around the sun, which shines out of my arse. That's just the way.
The source he'd provided didn't say anything even vaguely like he claimed it did. And I really just have never liked Donald Duck.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to ColdHardLogic and a happy new year. We are very happy to be back at long last. My esteemed panel for tonight, Marty, how's it going?
I'm doing fine.
And Ziller, what's up? Been a long time since I heard from you as well.
Yeah, all good.
Pumpkin, what do you have to say?
Oh, I'm absolutely splendid, dear chum.
Welcoming Dr. Kitch.
Cheers. Great. Fantastic.
Don't boost his ego, it's only biochemistry.
Here to introduce our very special guest that you're all here to see, Ziller.
Right, well, I think he first came onto the YouTube scene back in, I think it was 2012, started doing the series that he's probably best known for, calling out geocentrists and their ridiculous idea that the entire universe revolves around them, and has since gone on to do various other videos like Testing Geocentrism, World of Batshit, where he explores lots of different batshit ideas, and a mini-series on spirit science to rival Martimas. So without nary ado, I'd like to welcome on board ColdHardLogic.
Greetings. Thank you very much.
And also to point out, this is the very first live stream you've ever done, isn't it?
If I can, I'd like to ask a very quick question of my own. Testing geocentrism. Geocentrism is a bit of a weird and out there kind of belief that not many people, or you wouldn't think many people, still held to. It's got to be right on the fringe. So what kind of attracted you to geocentrism to debunk, and where did you hear about it?
I first encountered it from a YouTuber called FernieBoy100, who was the subject of the first couple of episodes. And I'd been watching stuff on his channel and trying to have a conversation with him in his comment sections. Quickly realised that you simply can't reason with people who are fundamentally unreasonable. It's just impossible. And I'd enjoyed kind of watching videos by Living Dinosaur and Potholer54 and others. And I just thought, I could do this, and I need some material, and this geocentrism lark seems as good as any, and it's kind of within an area that I enjoy because I love spacey stuff. So I just went with that. And it started off as a 10-minute script, and quickly became apparent when I was narrating it and writing it that it wasn't going to fit into a single 10-minute video. And it kind of ballooned from there and ended up as 2 parts, then 3 parts. And then just thought, well, I'm going to have to keep writing now. And so on it went.
Yeah, it does kind of go like that with these kinds of weird beliefs. Like I found that with the Flat Earth. Obviously, Marty's found it with spirit science. Once you start, you find there's so much that you have to pick apart that just doing one video doesn't really cut it.
That's it. The more you think about the subject and the more you think of what the implications are, then the more material you just naturally end up finding. And so you can just keep writing and writing and writing. And so that's kind of how it ballooned from a 10-minute script into a 10-part series with a supplement as well.
Yeah, it's not just that you find the implications. You also find that, at least for me, I found that when I talk about spirit science, when I talk about flat earthers, creationists, everything, it's not just the beliefs in question. It's also you have to think about the psychology involved.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, why do they believe these things? What are the? I mean, how do you have any kind of epistemology that allows you to believe things that are so completely out there?
That's the thing that is particularly, not sure puzzling is the right word, but just this certainty that people have in their beliefs when they haven't even apparently tried to check them. But they just feel that they're right and that's it, and there's no point listening to anybody else. And I find that incredibly strange and quite disturbing, depending on what the belief is.
Well, there was that classic Ferdy Boy video that was in response to yours, where all he could do was put up, "This is voodoo mathematics, this is voodoo mathematics, don't listen to him," and then couldn't produce any rebuttal whatsoever. So your answer is la 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 la.
Yeah, that was where the supplement came from, because he was basically, I think in that video, his first rebuttal, I think it was, he was basically saying, we can't know the distance to the sun, and that just pissed me off. So I thought, right, this is going to be too kind of mathematically weighty to put in the main series itself. So I'll just do a kind of episode on the side saying, right, this is how you can work out the distance to the sun, and get a reason and get a